You know those moments in life when everything shifts in a single heartbeat? That's exactly where my story begins. I never imagined I'd be sitting here, sharing something so personal, that maybe someone out there needs to hear it. Maybe someone needs to know they're not alone. For the longest time, I believed my relationship was steady. Not perfect, but safe. I trusted her in ways I didn't even trust myself. So when I learned she had broken that trust, it felt like the ground disappeared under me. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet, almost gentle, like a soft crack spreading through something fragile. I kept asking myself, how did we get here? And the truth is, I still don't know. What I do know is that moment changed everything. The way I loved, the way I trusted, and the way I saw myself. And that's where the story truly begins. Moment I realized something was wrong. Wasn't dramatic at all. It started with a feeling. That quiet, unsettling weight in your chest when someone you love begins to feel slightly out of reach. She seemed distracted, almost distant, like her mind was somewhere I couldn't follow. I kept trying to convince myself it was stress or work or anything normal, anything harmless. But then small things didn't add up. Missed calls, short answers, plans that changed without explanation. And even though I tried to push the worry aside, it kept creeping back, whispering that something wasn't right. The truth came slowly, piece by piece, like a puzzle I never wanted to finish. I remember the exact moment it became undeniable, when I saw a message that wasn't meant for me. Nothing inappropriate written out, but the tone. The way she comforted someone else, the way she used to comfort me. My heart didn't break all at once. It simply folded. And in that silence, I knew everything had changed. Confronting her was one of the hardest moments of my life. I didn't walk in angry. I didn't raise my voice. I just felt tired, like I'd been carrying a truth my heart wasn't built to hold. When she came home that night, I simply asked if we could talk. She looked surprised, almost nervous, and for a second I hoped I was wrong. But when I asked if there was someone else emotionally closer to her than I was, her silence told me everything. She didn't deny it. She didn't argue. She just lowered her eyes and whispered that she didn't mean for things to get complicated. Hearing that broke something inside me. Not because she admitted it, but because she said it so gently, as if softness could make the truth hurt less. I remember feeling both numb and painfully aware at the same time. I wanted to understand, to make sense of it, but all I could think was, when did I stop being enough? And in that moment, I knew nothing could return to the way it was. After that conversation, the house felt strangely quiet, almost like it was holding its breath, waiting for me to decide what came next. I kept replaying her words in my mind, hoping they would somehow feel different the second or third time. But they didn't. Each replay stung the same. I wasn't angry at her. I wasn't even angry at myself. I just felt this deep awareness that we had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. That night, I sat alone in the living room, thinking about the promises we made, the plans we had, and the person I used to be with her. I realized I'd been holding on to a version of our relationship that existed only in my hopes, not in reality. And letting go of that hope was one of the hardest decisions I've ever made. So I chose to walk away, not out of spite, not for revenge, but to protect what little peace I still had. It hurt, but staying would have hurt even more. Walking away wasn't the end. It was the beginning of reclaiming myself. For weeks, I felt the emptiness of absence, the quiet of not having her there. But that quiet became my space to breathe, to think, and to reflect. I realized I had spent so much time bending myself to fit someone else's needs that I forgot my own. Instead of focusing on her mistakes, I focused on me. I started setting boundaries I had avoided before, saying no when I wanted to, and rediscovering the things that made me feel alive and confident. I allowed myself to laugh without guilt, to dream without fear, and to trust myself again. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't getting even. It was simply letting my ex feel what I had felt, the absence of someone who no longer valued me. And in that absence, I discovered my strength, my worth, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing I hadn't lost myself. After I stepped back and started living on my own terms, the reaction came not as confrontation, but as confusion. She reached out, sent messages, and even tried calling, as if wondering why I had suddenly become distant. But by then, I wasn't the same person she had left behind emotionally. I realized that her frustration wasn't about me. It was about the consequences of her choices. Watching her try to regain control over something she no longer had was surreal. I didn't gloat. I didn't respond with bitterness. I simply observed, quietly, knowing I had reclaimed the power she had taken from me. The feelings of anger and betrayal began to soften into understanding. Some people will only value you until you stop giving without boundaries. That reflection taught me that the real medicine wasn't revenge, it was self-respect, emotional clarity, and the courage to walk away when love became neglect. Looking back now, I can see that this experience wasn't just about betrayal, it was about growth. Losing someone I loved so deeply hurt in ways I never imagined, but it also opened a door to discovering my own strength, my boundaries, and the value of self-respect. I learned that love should never require you to erase yourself or compromise your emotional well-being. I also realized that sometimes the hardest choices are the right ones. Walking away didn't make me cruel. It made me wise. It taught me that you can care deeply for someone without letting their mistakes define your life. True strength comes from choosing peace over revenge, clarity over confusion, and self-worth over validation from someone who can't give it. So I ask you, quietly and sincerely, if you were in my place, what would you have done? Because sometimes the answer isn't easy, but it defines who you become.